Thank you, Rabbi Israel, for the introduction. Thank you, Mr. Fader, for the sponsorship. The name was mentioned. Okay. Baruch ben Eliezer, Lilo Nishmas, we'll say again. Thank you, Rabbi Haber, for a fascinating talk. I think you went already. Okay, so my topic is about Jewish date. Date meaning the date on the calendar, not the date of Shidduchim. That was before. That was with a convert who wants to date a Jewish boy. That's not the topic here. The Jewish date, Jewish identity. So the story of how I got to learn a little bit about this sugya is to do with a personal peeve of mine that I see often. I think more and more. Maybe it's more common, I think, in Anglo society, that people use the English date, the general date, Christian date, whatever you want to call it. They use it a lot and often more or instead of the Jewish date. And I always find it like, it's like grating on my nerves. And just because it's grating on my nerves doesn't mean that it's wrong. Remember, I was born here. I was born in Eretz Yisrael, born and lived there most of my life. And the way I grew up, I only knew of the Hebrew dates and the Hebrew calendar. I mean, I knew of the existence of month like January, March, April, but I didn't even know the order of the month, or I had no idea when January is, when September is, until I was maybe, 20. So then I thought, just because I'm upset with the English date business, is it real something halachic, or is it just my own shtick, who says I'm right? And just because I heard once, I overheard, or I saw in a sefer, in passing, that there is an issue with using the Goyish date, who says that's true. You see all kinds of frumkaitlach and all kinds of alonim hanging around here. Doesn't mean that it's a real halachic thing, yeah? So I set out to explore what's the deal. Is there an issue with using the English date? Is there a preference of using the Hebrew date? Is it a mitzvah? What's the story? Neitzi Sefer V'nechzi. I opened a lot of computer pages, aka Sfarim, and set out to find out the truth. And as it usually is, truth lies somewhere in the middle. So before we actually go into the maskana, we're going to go through a journey about the essence of the Jewish date. Before we actually get to the halachic concept, we're going to have quite a lot of hashkafa. So it's either more interesting for you or less interesting for you, but definitely the first part of the issue will be more general and hashkafic, and only later we'll get to the part that deals with the halacha, lemaisa, of using or not using the English date. I made a bracha before. So we all know that the first mitzvah that Bnei Yisrael were commanded, the first mitzvah as a nation, not as individuals, as a nation, the first mitzvah that we were given already in Mitzrayim. Rabbi Eber spoke very nicely. We became a nation in Mitzrayim. It was our identity, right? Shmam, Levushim, L'shoinom. And the first mitzvah was Chodesh Hazeh Lochem Rishonu L'chodshei Hashono. In Parshas Boy, Hashem tells Moshe and Aaron, this month, the month of Nisan, is the first month L'chodshei Hashono, for all other months. Why is it so important that this is, rendered? This is defined as the first mitzvah, that Nisan should be the first month. Why is that so important? And before we even get to that, before the why, let's talk about the what. Why is that a mitzvah? It's a fact. This is the first month. If I'm telling you today is Tuesday, it's not a mitzvah. I'm telling you it's Tuesday. Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, Nisan is the first month. Okay, tick, first month. Fine. What's the mitzvah? Says the Chinuch, I'm quoting inside, I also have a lot of quotes here. Says the Sefer Chinuch, summarizing what many others say. Lekadesh chodoshim ul'aber shonim bebeis din godol. There's a mitzvah that Beis Din Agadol, the Beis Din who sits in Eretz Yisrael and has proper smicha in the times of Beis HaMikdash and beyond. Actually, there's a mitzvah to be Mekadesh Chodoshim, to declare the new month. We all know the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah is in Rosh Hashanah. We learn them in Rosh Hashanah day. There's a mitzvah to sanctify / declare the new moon, the new month, and Beis Din are in charge of that. And also le'aber shonim, sometimes to create, every once in a while, let's say about every 3 years, the way it comes up nowadays, be'erech, to make a leap year, like this, le'aber shonim, like this year is, other base was, le'aber shonim, to have the shonim uberes. This is part of the mitzvah of Beis Din. Chetiru chedusha shalavana tikbu lachem rosh chodesh. When you see the new moon, you create a new month, you set the new month, and this mitzvah is also including the Ibo Hashanah. The reason why we sometimes have a leap year, a longer year, is in order to make sure that the Mo'adim, the holidays, Pesach and Sukkot, obviously Shavuos as well, are celebrated in the right time, meaning Chodesh Aviv, the month of the spring, the time of flourishing. That's when you should celebrate Pesach. So you play around with the year, making sure that Pesach always fall in the right season, in the right physical season of the year. That is the mitzvah. Okay? So again, another technical introduction about how that's a very, very short and general mini talk about a huge, endless subject. Again, I'm not that proficient, and I also don't have time, as the other speaker said. So there are basically two, in the Goyish world, in the general world, there are basically two ways to calculate, to count the days of the year, to define what's a year, the length of the year. One of them is lunar, and the other one is solar. The lunar one is, you go by the times that the moon orbits around the earth, and that is, according to the Gemara, it's 29 and a half plus a few hours and a few minutes, a little bit more than 29 and a half days, right, every month. So if you have 12 months every year, it's 12 times 29 and a half, and that's 354 days. So a lunar year would have 354 days, and the lunar year is absolutely ignores and clashes with the seasons. The seasons, summer, spring, autumn or fall, right? I'm trying to be nice to everybody, right? V'chulei, these quarter of the years, they are ignored by they go by the sun, not by the moon. And that's why the Muslims who follow the lunar year, the one that's 354 days, that's why the Ramadan or other funny times, sometimes winter, sometimes summer, sometimes spring, it keeps falling different times. May they all fall, v'chulei. Then you have the solar year. The solar year is something that, shall I say, we as Westerners are more used to. The solar years goes according to the way that the sun orbits around more accepted to say that the earth orbits around the sun, and that is 365 days. It takes a cycle of 365 days, and the seasons are always set, because it goes by the season, the sun, hot, cold, it goes according to the sun, and therefore the Christian holidays, v'chulei, you always see the red and green, same time. It always snows, when there's red and green, if you're in the right kind of country. And that is the Western kind of calendar. So what do? So as always, Yiddishkeit is the emes, is the derech shvil azov, the middle of the road, and we combine both. We combine both the solar year and the lunar year. We believe more in the lunar year. We believe more by the Levana, and we'll explain soon why. But Klal Yisrael has to do with the moon, and our year is conceptually, generally more of a lunar year. We go by the month, and every time we mekadesh the new month. However, as we said before by the Chinuch, we also make sure that the lunar and solar that are 11 days apart, 365 minus 354, that they always somehow catch up with each other. In order for them to catch up with each other, we have the Shona Meuberes. Every few years we have the extra length, like another month, to catch up with that. And also differences within the lunar year, but we're not going there. So as we know, I think that what I'm saying is quite known to most of us, but it's kedai to do chazara. In the times of Beis Din, two kosher Eidim would see the new moon, they would see the new moilad, the new crescent, appearing in the sky. They would run to Beis Din, and that would be in the 29th day. If they said that this is the 30th day, if this is Rosh Chodesh, and the previous month was the Choser, was a month of 29 days, and if the Eidos didn't come, people didn't see the moon, or Beis Din would sometimes refuse to see the Eidim, because Beis Din had the right to sometimes play around with it, or the edus would not be accepted for whichever reason, then the month, then today, the 30th day, would then belong to the previous month, and only tomorrow would start a new month, the first of the new month. And that's why we have more or less, every year should have more or less equal amount of month, some choser, some mole, to play around to have a normal year. And then Beis Din would also create a Shana Meuberes. Beis Din, the Gemara Sanhedrin says that if Beis Din saw, let's say, that the fruit are not getting ripe early enough, they're not ripening, it's winter time, and we see that the way the agriculture works, now, if things are getting too late, and if we just keep things as they are, Pesach would not be in the time of the Aviv. Pesach will not be in the time of Aviv. Doesn't just mean spring. It says Hachita be'iba, right? In the Makas Mitzrayim, Iba means when it flourishes, when it grows. Also in modern Hebrew, when it says something be'ibo, it means that it's at its peak. So if we see that Pesach will not be celebrated in the Aviv because of the fruit, the weather, the Tkufa, we're not going now to talk about the Tkufa, then Beis Din would sit down and go to an aliyah, go to a very secluded place. 3 dayanim from Beis Din Agadol would sit down and decide the way the weather is, the way that the Tkufa is, with the stars, with the constellations. They would check it out and decide whether to be me'aber, to lengthen the year, yes or no. And if they wouldn't have come to a conclusion, would have to add 2 other dayanim. That's the beginning of Sanhedrin. And if not, they would have a maximum of 7 dayanim. Then they have to sit down and break their heads and see if this year should be meuberes or not. Should we have a longer year or normal year, and calculate how it's going to affect all kinds of things. And they would sit every year. Every year would be a potential Iber Yor, except for years where there was hunger for some reason. But most years, in a normal year, Beis Din sits down and decides, shall we have a Shana Meuberes, yes or no? And by the way, something interesting, and that is the Gemara in Shabbos says that Beis Din would not say Krishma while they were in the process of deciding whether to have the Iber Yor. When they were deciding whether it's going to be Shana Meuberes or not, they'd be potter from saying Krishma. Wow, that's an exception. Even people who are potter from Tefillah, Rab Shimon Bar Yochai v'Chaverov, people who sit and learn all day long, like in a cave, like completely detached from the world, they still have to say Krishma. But the Dayanim would be dealing with Ibu Hashana, they would be even exempt from saying Krishma. Unbelievable. Why? It starts from Pashup Pshat of the Gemara there in Shabbos Daf, I think, Yudal Fidbeis. It says there that really the reason is you need a lot of concentration. They would have to concentrate so much in that process, even Krishma would basically distract them, and that would be an issue. The Rambam says something different, very interesting. He says, Tzolkei Rabim. Because they're dealing with the needs of the nation, the entire nation, something so important, so their own mitzvah of Krishma is pushed aside. Maybe also because of concentration, but if it wouldn't have been for the Tzolkei Rabim, so Iber Hashana was very, very important, very big business, and we have to understand that it's very, very sad. Nowadays we don't have smicha anymore. The official smicha, the way it was smicha, the real smicha from the time of the Mishnah, we don't have that smicha. The Rabbanim that we have today are not as ordained as ordinance as smicha really was. And one smicha, as the Chinuch said, only Beis Din that are real smuchim, from Moshe all the way down, mamish smicha from Rabbi to Talmid through the generations. Those people had the authority to create the month, create the year, create the Shana Meuberes. We lost that, and by the way, the smicha did not finish by the time of the Mishnah or Beis Hamikdash. It sounds like a few hundred years after the end of the Mishnah era, they still had the smicha, and they still had that system until Hillel Hanossi, or Hillel HaKotan, some call him. He lived, it sounds like even after Aban Rov, it's quite a few hundred years after the end of the Mishnah time. He then, at some point, was metaken. He established a set Jewish calendar, the one which we have nowadays, and that's why we have it all set. We know, Choser, Mole, set for Cheshvan, Kislev, sometimes a Mole or Choser, but most months we all know it's going to be Mole, Choser. Ibur year is already set, and that's it. Now, the Hashkafik idea. Why is it that the year is based dafka more on the moon? Why not on the sun? Make it easy, like the Goyim. We always know when this is, when that is. It's much easier without the Mol, Choser, all these businesses. Why get into this trouble? Why didn't the Kodesh Baruch Hu tell us to have a year that's set by the solar system and the sun and finished? So first of all, there are two reasons, and at the end they're going to connect. Reason number one, that hashkafically speaking, as Gemara in Sukkah Daf Chavtes, the Gemara says that whenever there is nowadays there was in America, right? There was big solar eclipse, right? In Canada and the US, solar eclipse. Whenever there's a solar eclipse, that's a siman rat to umas ha'olam. Yeah, the umas ha'olam, the goyim, yeah, for them they go by the sun. They relate and they're compared to the sun, and that's why for them solar eclipse is not good, and we are compared to the moon, and that's why when there's a lunar eclipse, it's not good for us. And this is the Tanchuma. I'm quoting the beautiful words of the Tanchuma. This is worth quoting word for word. Bnei Yisrael are like the moon. Why are we like the moon? Yeah, the crescent, the small moon, grows and grows and grows until what? Until it's a big boy or big girl, whatever. Big moon. Yeah, the day 15th. It's full. Yeah, full moon. When the moon is in its full, it's beautiful, it's more unique. You look at the sun, you can't look at the sun, and it's not so special when it's all grown up, yeah? But for the moon, it grows up, wow, look at it, it's its glory, and it illuminates the entire world from one end to the other. The light illuminates and shines and is bright the whole world. And then again it goes down, gets smaller and smaller, it wanes away, and then what? Doesn't give any light. That's the way we are. The Jewish nation, as opposed to Goyim, yeah, look at many not all of them, but many Goyish nations, the history is more or less the same throughout. Yeah, Shaket to Moav, Shoket al Shmorov. You have Shana and Moav, Shoket al Shmorov. Moav, they're like sitting on their laurels the whole time. They're the same thing. The Jewish nation, unfortunately, a lot of action going on with us. Yeah, there's wars and this. Everyone has to say something about Klal Yisrael. Yeah, because Klal Yisrael are like that. We're dynamic. We're changing. Sometimes we are up and we illuminate the world with our Torah and mitzvahs and Goyim admire us. And sometimes we are down and trodden and everyone's stepping all over us. And we go up and down. We are changing people because we have constant connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu according to our mitzvahs, our averas. Then we are up and down. Jewish nation is like a roller coaster, like the moon. It goes up and down. The Goyim, like the sun, the Zelbezach the whole time, more or less. Yeah, there's a war every 10 years. You open a newspaper in Europe. You used to live in Europe. Yeah, the hottest headline. Usually, you go to. I like to try to read different languages to see if I understand. Yeah, like the big headline is like ich weiß nicht, I don't know, some change of half cent in the in the currency, and the other big headline is about something that happened in Israel. Yeah, they always have like something exciting about Israel, war or something, and something very boring that happened in their own country. And that's the way it is. That's Kederech. That's like the Chama. Also, the Chama seems to be controlling, right? The Chama is controlling the world more. It's bigger and brighter. In Olam Hazeh, Chama always represents Olam Hazeh. That's also a big Ashkafic idea. The sun represents Olam Hazeh. En chodesh tachas hashemesh. Right? It says in Koheles, there's nothing new under the sun. But above the sun, there's a lot of new things. What does it mean? The sun represents Anhogo Ateva. Anhogo Ateva, the way nature is. Goyim are looking at nature. Yeah, you go to work, you go to sleep. Yeah, that's it. That's the way it is. And that's how the sun is. It's controlling. Like the Goyim obviously are much more in control than we are in this world. In Olam Hazeh and Gashmias terms. And that's the Chama. We are affected by the Goyim, like the Levana, and we are changing up and down because in Olam Hazeh we are smaller and we are up to changes. And that's the way it is until Losid Lava, we daven every time in Birkas Levana, yeah, that will be back to the situation of Shnei Me'os HaGdolim. So that's why we count mainly by the moon. Why is that the first mitzvah? Okay, why is that dafka the first mitzvah? Why is it so? Yeah, why was it such a urgent thing by Kodesh Baruch Hu to commend us? Yeah, regarding that mitzvah, dafka more than any other mitzvah, says the Medrash Rabbah, and I'm adding from the Sifsei Chaim. El Moed Hashem Mikra Kodesh Shetikru Oisam B'Moy Adam. The mitzvah is, there's another mitzvah connected to that. You should declare the Mo'adim of Hashem in the right time. What does it mean in the right time? Obviously in the right time. Says the Medrash Ben Bizmanan Ben Shelo Bizmanan En Limodos Elo Elu. Whether it's the right time or the wrong time, it's always the right time. Excuse me? So Rav Friedlander explains based on the Medrash. Originally, before the mitzvah of Chodesh Zolochem, who decided how the cycle of sun, moon, times is going to work? Obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who else exactly? Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, even if you decide that Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, I don't know what, is not the right time according to Shamayim, I'm telling you it is the right time, meaning you decide. It's up to you. You are now going to decide when the new month will take place, and the years as well. הרי מסור ביודכם ברשותכם. אם אמרתם הן, הן, ואם אמרתם לאו, לאו. החודש הזה, לochem. Beis Din are now in charge. Yeah? And not only that, if the year changes, according to Klal Yisrael, the Kodesh Baruch Hu agrees to that. There's a fascinating, famous Yerushalmi that says in Ksubas, it says, if Beis Din were me'aber the year, let's say Beis Din decided before Adar that this year will be longer, it means that people's age also changes, and even people's physical status. Yeah, a girl who's 3 years old, we learn Kiddushin now. Yeah, a girl who's below 3 and a girl who is 3 years old. Yeah, who actually completed 3 years. Halachically, her halachic status is very different. One case for which is Nogea to us is Yichud. You're not allowed to be alone in the room with a girl who's 3 years old, but below 3 you can. And here, what do we say? If that Ktana was supposed to have her birthday, let's say in Adar, and now Beis Din decided, no, it's going to be a longer year, or let's say Nisan of next year, Beis Din lengthened the year, that girl now is going to be physically younger. Wow. Physically younger, physically, halachically younger, because Beis Din now made her, technically, calendarily, and physically younger. It's all b'haskama of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this Yesod is an Nefesh HaChaim. The Nefesh HaChaim goes at great length to that, to say that Klal Yisrael, Tnu Oz LeElokim, welcome Rabaria, Tnu Oz LeElokim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you give me power. Once, at the beginning, Bereshis Bar Elokim, I created the world. Nisan is a new creation. We're going to talk about that later. Machlokas, whether the world was created in Tishrei or Nisan, there is a re-creation, a renaissance of new creation of the world in Nisan, created kivyachol by Klal Yisrael. Hashem is giving us the keys, the reins, to actually run the world, not ruin the world, but run the world, to actually decide when things are going to happen, and that's expressed, that's manifested with the mitzvah of a chodesh lochem. You, Klal Yisrael, led by Beis Din, you decide the new reality of the world. Why Davka Nisan? Why does the year, or the months actually, we're going to see it's not the same, why did they start from the month of Nisan? Well, you can say clearly, because that's when we came out of Mitzrayim. But that's not so simple. If the world was created on Rosh Hashanah, which some people say it was, then the first month should be, like we kind of think, Tishrei. Why do we say that the first month is Nisan? And I'll surprise you, I'll tell you now already, the Ramban says, and some Rishonim in Rosh Hashanah, they say that the year starts in Tishrei, but the months start from Nisan. Yes, it's weird. Yeah, it's like you start in the middle of the month, the monthly count, you start the year, and the months, they begin in Nisan. Why is that? Says the Ramban, Parshas Boi, Chodesh Hazeh Lechem Rosh Chodoshim. And why is that the first month should be Nisan? Kedei sheyeh zikoron b'nes hagodol. So we remember the great miracle of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Ki b'chol es shenazkir chodoshim yeh hanes nizkar. Now you should have your red lights on already. Yeah, you should have your feelers on. Every time you mention Nisan, or I wouldn't say the word Nisan, you mention Rishon. When you say, this is the first month, Nisan, and now Iyar is the second month, then you're supposed to remember, why is it the first month? Why is it the second month? Yetzias Mitzrayim, amazing. And the Ramban points out, L'chodoshim en, al ken en l'chodoshim shem b'toiro. Chodesh HaShlishi. If you noticed, all these names, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, do not appear in the Torah or in the early Nevi'im. In the Torah it says Chodesh Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. When it says Tishrei, full of Yomim Tovim, it's repeatedly called Chodesh HaShvi. Only numbers, not names. Why? Says the Ramban, unbelievable. Just like, as opposed to most European languages, in Hebrew, Yom Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi is just regular counting. First, second, third, fourth day. Yom Rishon in English is not Sunday, it's first day. Yom Shlishi is not Tuesday. If you really want to translate word for word, it's the third day, right? And therefore, why is that? just like we say Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, counting up to Shabbos, says the Ramban, right? Because we want to remember Shabbos, we want to wait and be excited about the upcoming Shabbos. It's a first, second, third of what? Third is always relative. You counting? What are you counting? I'm counting for Shabbos. So too, Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi of the Chodoshim, of the months, remind us it's Rishon for Yetzias Mitzrayim and so on. So we live amongst that, within that scale of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. So where did the names of the months come from? The current Hebrew months, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Odor, where did it come from? So the Gemara in Yerushalmi says, Shmois Chodoshim Olu Imonu Mi Bovel. The name of the months came with us from Bovel. And if somebody, a big heretic, a Pekoris, would tell you, you from people are using names of Avodah Zarah, Tammuz, he's right. We're using names of Avodah Zarah. Tammuz is the name known of Avodah Zarah. Their women used to cry over the Tammuz. It says, Mavakus is a Tammuz. So why do we mention names that are so dubious? Says the Ramban, because after they made Aliyah, like all of you guys here, I think everyone in the room here made Aliyah except for me. And unlucky me. I also made Chazara. So basically, why did we make Aliyah and kept the old months, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev? Says the Ramban, because Lehazkir Kisham Omadnu Umsham Elan Hashem Yisborach, to thank Hashem that we made Aliyah from that horrible Golus Bavel. Remember that Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. Remember them. Remember that we are oppressed under the Babylonians, and now we are free. And that is Keilu, the modern version of Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. Originally, you remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. That was like the hot news, Yetzias Mitzrayim. But the Pasuk in Yirmiyahu says, it's actually a controversy in Brochus, but the Pasuk in Yirmiyahu says, V'lo yomer od chai Hashem asher helo es bnei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim, ki im chai Hashem asher elav asher hevi meretz Tzofon. Yirmiyahu says at some point, you'll be so overjoyed by coming back from Golus, from the second Golus, let's say Bavel, that will be even more detrimental and more important in your psyche, more central than Yetzias Mitzrayim. So originally we said Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi, remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. Then we fell into the Golus of these horrible Bavlim, and the name of their months and their Avodah Zarah. We keep that in order to remember and thank Hashem that we're out of there. Remember, when you remember the Tzaras, you thank Hashem more. Okay? Nazkir b'chodoshim Megillah Shenis, as we did before, and that's why you only see the name of those months in the later Ksuvim, in Esther. It says, like Sivan, v'chulei, Odor. It's mentioned in Esther, in Zechariah, in Nehemiah, and the later Sforim. The Rashbam says something very important, which is important also for the second part. A chodesh is lochem. What does it mean? A chodesh is lochem. Afal pi she'ein rosh chodoshim l'shar umois, lachem yeh rosh chodoshim. It's for you. This is something unique for you. To call Nisan, Rishon, and Iyar, Sheni, Shlishi, it's part of your identity that differentiates you, separates you from the Goyim. Ki bo yatzasim miMitzrayim. Very nice. And now let's tie everything together. So all very nice, all very nice. Now everything ties up together. What did we say before? Klal Yisrael got the Anhoga. When did Klal Yisrael receive the leadership of the world? In Nisan, the new creation of the world. We all know the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Tishrei is Yom Hadin for the entire world. And Tishrei is when you count the Goyish kings. If you have to count according to the years of the Goyish kings because they demand it of you, you say that the first month is Tishrei. But when you count the years of a Jewish king, you start from Nisan. There are two creations. The creation of Tishrei is when Hashem created the world, and the Goyim are passive. They're passively created, and Hashem bestows upon them the Bria, the creation of Tishrei. And the second creation, that is what? The special Yom Hadin of Klal Yisrael, the birthday of Klal Yisrael. I wouldn't say Yom Hadin exactly, but Pesach is our own. That's our real national holiday. Is Nisan, is Pesach, when we were created. And it's more than just our birthday, it's a whole new creation of us leading the world. So this is the beauty of the Jewish calendar. There's Tishrei when the year starts, but our year starts in Nisan with the months being first, second, and third, v'chuli. So now, all very nice. Now let's get to Halacha L'Maisa. We see that the Jewish calendar has the Jewish calendar is not something technical. That's so far we know. That when you mention Tishrei Cheshvan, you remember something historic, something to do with our nation, v'chuli. The years that we count, needless to say, are years from the creation of the world, not from the birth of Yeah? So it's more than just a technical thing to remember that today is this and that date. There's something very deep and very spiritual and very Jewish over here. All very nice, but when am I supposed to finish at 12? If it's quick, my regular attendees know that I'm...
No, I've just asked that it's from the creation of the world we counted. I've been taught that we're creating from the creation of Adam and Rishon.
We'll discuss it later.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll discuss it at 12. Blineder will have a 15 minutes break. Okay. Halacha l'maisa. Halacha l'maisa. What's the deal? Halacha l'maisa says the Chassam Sofer in his droshes. Chassam Sofer we know the Chassam Sofer was, and he always fought for real Yiddishkeit against the neologues, the reforms. The Chassam Sofer mentions in his droshes that he gave that it's very important to use the Hebrew date because when you mention, because of everything else we said, he brings down the Ramban and says, let's apply the Ramban lahalacha. Then he adds a very, very strong line. I don't like all these new minhagim. People start writing over here years that count, but the Mashiach of the Christians. Wow, Beis Yisrael should be ashamed for that change that they write the Goyish years. You should be ashamed of it, says Chassam Sofer. And then he writes something very interesting, maybe to do with today, with the events of today. He says, you know why we have to mention the Jewish date? Because that reminds us of a right over Eretz Yisrael. Yeah? Because the Bereshis Bo Elokim, whenever you say Tafshin Pei Dalet, for example, you remember the world was created Tafshin Pei Dalet years ago. That's very nice. The world was created. That's kind of fun. Otherwise, we couldn't have coffee if the world wouldn't be created, right? But he says something else. He says that also reminds us of a right over Eretz Yisrael. Everyone knows the first Rashi. The first Rashi, Ben Gvir. The first Rashi, right? The Kodesh Baruch Hu, yeah, he's the one who decided to create the world, and he gave us the land, and we should kick out the other ones. So the whole idea of our right over the land has to do with Bereshis, and therefore he says, Begalus Soichakim Umas. Now in the exile, when the Goyim see us now using their dates, they make fun of us. You don't have your own land, so you guys, you don't have a land, you don't have a date to remind you of your land even. So then he continues, when we mention the Jewish date, at least the years he talks about, then we know that the world is new, and we know that Eretz Yisrael is ours. Yeah, and then again he says, somebody writes the Goyish date, listen to this. Whoever writes a Goyish date and then writes his name, whatever, Chaim Yankel Pochatchowski, yeah, you sign on a Goyish date with a Jewish name, according to Chassam Sofer, it's as if you signed, I have nothing to do with Elokei Yisrael. It's Chassam Sofer, don't stone me, please. I'm quoting word for word Chassam Sofer, I cut and paste, don't look at me. They just bring bad upon themselves. They despise the Torah of Hashem. Okay, don't leave, there are other opinions, but this is worthwhile knowing. This is some cipher that says you write whatever, January 1st, 2000 billion, yeah, then you have an issue, big issue. Lamaisa, what's the Isra over here? The Chassam Sofer droshes is not a halacha sefer. It's a drosha he gave in shul. Very chazak, very strong, very sharp, very Chassam Sofer dik. But what is Lamaisa the Isra? So the Maharam Shik was the famous Talmid of Chassam Sofer. Yeah. Just like the Chassam Sofer, they were very much against anything new. They knew what's coming. Yeah. The Maharam Shik was very much against modern Shik. He was very into old style. The Maharam Shik says there was a matzeva. There was a matzeva, a tombstone, a headstone, whatever you want to call it, with a Goyish date. I guess there, wherever in Hungary, and he really went berserk, and he says that Shem Elohim Acher Lo Tazkiru. When he mentioned the Goyish date, you really are subconsciously reminding people of Oisa Aish, of the Mamzel, and therefore that's as if you mention the name of Avodah Zarah. You're not allowed to say names of Avodah Zarah. Yeah, not supposed to say, supposed to say Xmas, not CHRST, because that's already mentioning the name of a deity. Yeah, and therefore, yeah, you think of a Goyish date, it's a Goyish mindset, it reminds of Avodah Zarah, bad news. Rav Chaim Falaji, completely from a completely different place, at 12 o'clock, then we'll leave North Korea and move back to Israel. Right now, Unless it's a very, 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 very.
No, I just wanted to point out that you said before we're using Rishon names anyway because of the.
Oh, if it's Tisha Cheshvan and it's for the right reason, because we left the Golus and it's something behind us, very nice. Maybe when the Mashiach comes, you can mention other years. But as long as we are in Golus, we should mention the Avodah Zarah. Only if we were, after we left the Golus, we thank Hashem that this is behind us. That's very different. In any event, so the Reb Chaim Palagi, the Kaf HaChaim, he wrote many Sfarim. Kaf HaChaim is one of the major Sfardi Poiskim, and he says, "B'chukosem lo telechu." It brings down the whole Torah here. I don't have much time. He says, if you write the Goy Shadeit, "B'chukosem lo telechu." Ksav yad Odom Yisrael shechoisim bo Yisrael. If you sign a contract or anything, or I don't know, check, and you write the Goy Shadeit, "B'chukosem lo telechu." He brings down like a remez. Begoyim lo yischashov. In am levoded yishkoin, the begoyim lo yischashov. What's lo yischashov? Cheshbon. Don't be mechashev, don't calculate your year like a goy. Do it like a yid. Other sources say the same. Okay. Fine. Okay. Here comes good news. Okay. And then comes the middle of the road. So fast forward many years, I would start with continue this Fardim. But fast forward a few hundred years, Ovadia Yosef. Ovadia Yosef is the one that, as far as I researched, he's the one that has the longest and most detailed teshuva in the matter, is Ovadia Yosef. And he says that there are many reasons to be mekel. There are many reasons that you may be lenient, and you may possibly use a goyish date. And we'll go through them one by one. He says, Shem Elohim Acherim. He says, whichever year you're in, whatever, 2024, whatever, is not the real year. It's not really when Yoshka was born. There was a confusion even in their own calendars. The Goyim don't know what they're talking about, even in that term, even in that area. And therefore, when you mention that year, you're not really mentioning even anything to do with Yoshka. Even if they think so, it's not the truth. Secondly, B'chukosem lo telechu, he brings down the Ramah. Love and peace. Tavadi and the Ramah together. Baruch Hashem. Yeah. We're all together all together now. The Ramah famously says, based himself on another Sfarim, that Chukas HaGoyim, which is a whole issue is of itself, Chukas HaGoyim is one of two, mainly. Either you dress like a goy, you behave like a goy in a way of shachatz and pritzes. For example, to wear something red and very flashy, very flamboyant, red, like the Sorim, like the ministers used red, is not appropriate for Yid. It's something goyish. It's too flashy, too outgoing, and therefore that's considered to be chukas hagoyim. You have to wear something darker. Actually, it says it in halacha. So you have to wear something. Derech Hameinu. The Nosei Kemli say wear darker clothes to show that we're more anovim. And also the other idea is, the main idea of chukas hagoyim is, if a goyim do something and they adhere to something very, very strongly, with no particular reason. How would you call such a person? Religious, right? When somebody does something very religiously, like very, it's very makpid on some funny thing that has no logic to it, probably there's some kind of religious source to it. He may know, he maybe he himself doesn't know, but he's great booby, I don't know, some Indian custom, some Christian custom, that you shouldn't follow. However, says Rabbi Yosef, and here comes the main point, when you have the goyish date and you do it for technical reasons, you live in, let's say, leave Eretz Israel. You live in America, or you deal with America, with Europe, they don't understand Yiddish dates. You have to use a Goyish date for technical reasons. If I do something for a technical reason, which is very logical, because that's the way my banker in Switzerland, let's say, that's the way he understands it, clearly, I'm not doing anything of Chukas HaGoyim out of the way, something suspicious. Simply, I'm doing it for technical, it's more convenient and more comfortable, so it's not Chukas HaGoyim. And then he throws the real bomb. Then he brings the real bomb. He says, if you, G'dayla Yisrael, including the Chassam Sofer, even the Chassam Sofer once wrote a letter to the Hungarian, or whatever there was, government, and the date was November the 8th, 1821. Chassam Sofer wasn't Chas v'Shalom hypocrite, Chalila. So what's going on over here? Because the Chassam Sofer spoke in Shul, to the Jewish people amongst themselves. In the Maramshik, they spoke about writing the date on the Matzeva. When you talk to a fellow Jew, when you talk to someone, when you write a document to Jewish people, clearly binyanim of Kedusha, such as matzeva, invitation to a chasana, invitation to announcing a bris, of course you should use the Jewish date. Otherwise, that's terrible. If you write to whoever you write to, Franz Josef, I don't know who lived in these times, excuse my ignorance there, or Maria Teresa, whoever it was there, so then of course you write the Goyish date, because that's what they can relate to. You dance the dance, because then it's not Asr anymore. So even if some Sefer would have agreed with the Ksvar of Rav Avadia. Now, at the end, here comes the end of the story. There's another halachic which I don't have time for. Look at what Rav Avadia writes at the end. The kol she'en tzarich gadol, unless Rav Avadia is most mekel in the subject, yet he finishes off with kol she'en tzarich gadol, unless there is a great need, yesh lichtov v'chadoshim v'shonim l'mispar b'nei Yisrael. You should write the months and the years according to the Jewish counting. Ubifrat po b'artzeinu ha'kedosha. Or the more so here in our holy land. We're in our land, amongst our people, let's use Yiddish Jewish date. Ukshiyesh tzarich b'davar, tov lichtov v'levad l'misparim gam l'briyas ha'olam. When you really have to, use double dates. Use both. That's what's going to Rav Avadia. But definitely, clearly, better, much better to use unless you really have to use the Jewish date, if you can. And here comes Moshe Sternbuch, Moshe Sternbuch Shlita says, Midina, but the letter of the law, Me'ikar Adin, Nira she'en shum isur lazki chodosh l'minyan hachama. There's no problem to write the January, February, March. And by the way, Rav Avadia says, that's what I want to say before, that if you write the Goyish date, it's better to write the, let's say, 22nd of January and not 22nd of the 1st. Because the 1st is what? That's a Ramban. Our 1st is Nisan. It's a whole big business about it, right? So you should write January, February, March, and not 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Continues Moshe Sternbuch. Even Reb Chaim Brisker, so religious. Even Reb Chaim Brisker, he paid a Jew schirus. He had to pay his rent, his monthly rental fee, and he paid that with a check according to the Chodsheyim, according to the Goyish month, without chashash. Even Brisker's. Omnam, sorry to ruin the fun, sorry to spoil the fun. What? So now I'm going to ruin your fun again. I'm sorry. Omnam, Noe, continues Moshe Sternbuch. Noe hadover v'yoy, kilo noe, kilo yoy. We're saying in Elo Seder, it's right, and it's good, and it's correct, and it's better. Shekol koisev lechavevo yichtov tfiyah lo'ucho ivri shalanu. Whoever writes a letter to his friend, not to the memshal or something technical to your, tenant, but you write stam in your daily normal life. You talk to your wife, you talk to your friend, you write them letters, emails, whatever that is, that should be with the Hebrew date. And he adds another point. We have to be proud of the fact that we know how to calculate the months and the years. I think it's referring to the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Ayin Hey. It says, your wisdom in the eyes of the Goyim, says the Gemara, everybody knew in the times of the Gemara that astronomy and knowing how to calculate the years, the calendar was a very Jewish kind of chachma. And now we're giving in to them. Many shutim, many shalos uchuvas, I've seen many, and they all end up the same. It's okay to use the Goyish date, but it's far, far better to use the Jewish date whenever you can. That's always the maskana. Jewish date has, you have 2 pieces of chicken, same price, theoretically. Badatz and less than badatz. You go for the badatz. Now, says the Avnei Yoshve, the Rav Friedlander, fine handler, says something very interesting. This is something which spoke to me, and I think that was my peeve originally. He says, if at some point you only use the English dates, and you completely forget, you live completely out of cycle with the Hebrew dates, Maybe you know when the Hebrew date is, but you completely doesn't talk to you. He says that's ke'en hitamus v'goyim. It's as if you're losing part of your Jewish identity, and that is to do with Shmam Levusham Eloshoinam. We all know that in Mitzrayim, even before they got Torah mitzvahs, they dressed like Jews, they spoke like Jews, they named each other Jews. You also have to have a Jewish calendar. It should be part of your Jewish identity. Use the Goyish date because so-and-so from the bank, he doesn't understand the Jewish date, Pseder, and that's how we run our business life at best. You write an invitation for a chasana without writing the Hebrew date? Well, what's going on over here? It's not me now, right? I'm backed by many big rabbis, So obviously invitations for Dvarim Shebekdusha, Zichar, the Jewish date should be mentioned at least first, and maybe we be Zoicha that very soon we will see that the sun and the moon, we are we're not the Moonies, no we're not, but we are those that are relating to the moon more, will be Zoicha to be as big as the sun and light up the whole world, and the whole world will, Be'ezras Hashem, follow the real or of the Torah. Thank you very much. Atzlacha bracha. Thank you, Lev. Thank you so much for all the technical help. Thank you.